Hey everyone, Simon here. Today we're going to talk about Ardra Nakshatra secrets. Now, I've already made a couple of videos on Ardra about remedies and some of its qualities. In this series on secrets of the nakshatras, I'm discussing specifically the marker stars, the actual star that is the nakshatra, and how it plays out in the effects in a person's life, and how that person reflects the mythology, the stories associated with those stars. Because before these were ever written down and classified as 13-degree 20-minute segments, which are artificial classifications, they're there for the purposes of fitting within a 360-degree circle. They're not actual divisions in the sky. You don't look up and see, a line between Sagittarius and, Capricorn. You don't see a line between Ardra, Mirgashira and Ardra. There's no line there. What you do see is stars. And today we're going to talk about the star Betelgeuse, 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 however you want to say it. But it is the marker star Alpha Orionis of Ardra, but it happens to fall within the little chunk of Mrigashira. It falls in the last pada, the last foot, the last portion of Mrigashira Nakshatra. So wait, how does that make sense? Is it Ardra or is it Mrigashira? Well, it's Ardra, folks. So if you have a planet at 6 degrees or 5 degrees of Gemini, you're more likely to have Ardra characteristics than you are to have Mrigashira characteristics. Now, in the previous video where I talked about secrets of Rohini and Mrigashira, if you haven't seen that, please watch that, because this is kind of a series here. I talked about how the ancient storytellers, the ancient astrologers, the ancient shamans and rishis looked at the sky as a tapestry where fate and myth was written. The stars were actually words and stories, because people didn't have, think about South India or South America, wherever it is, where it rains all the time, where all you have is some leaves. It's very hard to preserve anything on paper or on palm leaf. It's much easier to preserve it orally and in the minds and the hearts of people. So when they went out, they told the stories, and the stories were written in the stars. So you could look up and go, oh yeah, there's that star. And I remember the story associated with it because that's a chariot. And chariots ride above the ground. They give you a lofty view. They are above the human fray of karma, of life and death, right? If you're in a chariot, you're above all of that. And so the marker star of Mrigashira, which I proposed in that video called Capella, is called Brahma Hridaya, the heart of God, in the heart of Brahma in Sanskrit. So in that video, I talked about how Brahma can take on, if you have Mrigashira Nakshatra and Rohini Nakshatra especially, you can become a little too proud of your own creations. Rohini people can become attached to their own team, their country, their identity, their race sometimes, and a little too much. Now, a little bit of that is good. It's fine. Having pride in yourself and in your, your tribe, that's okay. But when that becomes a point of contention where my tribe is now better than yours and screw your tribe and yada, yada, then we have the us and them mentality, which is the cause of most wars. So that pride that Brahma took when he created his creation. So the story goes, Brahma was so proud of himself. He said, look, I created humans, I created cows, I created trees, I created the sky, I created clouds, I created rain, and look how cool it works. The rain comes down, then it evaporates, and it comes down again. Am I a genius or what, right? Brahma was gloating. And so Rudra, who is Ardra Nakshatra, he looks at this, and all of a sudden he felt all the karma that this being had created, all the suffering, all the woe, and he began to weep. And then he got angry, because Brahma wouldn't stop patting himself on the back. Hey, I'm so proud. Look at how good I am. And so Rudra eventually cut one of his heads off. And so Rudra represents the real world consequences of the stuff that you do. And Rudra people, Ardra people, above all others, feel injustice. They feel unrighteousness more than most people. They rail against it, and they're not averse to getting their hands dirty. You know, Osama bin Laden, classical Ardra person whose terrorism was an act of rebellion against what he felt was injustice, right? That's an extreme example. Other examples, we have Heath Ledger, who played the Joker in Batman, right? And the Joker felt that he had been unjustly treated, right? And so he became a terrorist, basically. Ice Cube has, the rapper, when he was younger, he did some controversial raps against the police, whom he felt obviously there was injustice there as well. So he railed against it. Sean Penn, Janis Joplin, Drake, Kurt Cobain, all have prominent Ardra placements, even Taylor Swift. So people who, and a lot of Ardra people may seem very sweet, very nice, lovely, beautiful people, but if you scratch a little bit below the surface, they have immense willpower and immense ability to let you have it when you're in the wrong. They like to right wrongs. They don't like injustice. So the reason for that, again, coming back to the myth, is that this star Orion lives in, the star Aldebaran lives in the constellation Orion. And Orion is the hunter who basically cuts the head off of everything he sees. But unlike the hunter in sort of the Western stories, Rudra, he cuts off the head of, and he gives you the consequences of your unrighteous actions. So even artists who, we create art, we create music, when we become too attached to those creations, we suffer. So this isn't just politicians and people. So Brahma, the creator, remember. So the lesson here is when you create something, you let it go. Brahma Prajapati is also the first creator of, Adam, the first man. And when you have kids, your job is to raise them, to be proud of them, but at a certain point, you have to detach from them and let them go and be their own person. That's what we do when we let them go to school. That's what we do when we let them move out of the house and get married. So, and it's a painful process. It hurts. So this part of the sky that represents Rohini, Aldebaran, the power of creativity and having children and art and the things that are very dear to us, our kids, the books we write, the paintings we paint, the businesses that we build. By the time we get to Ardra, we have to let those things go. And if we don't let them go, Ardra will cut our head off, meaning we'll pay the consequences of being too attached for too long. Okay. So, and one of the reason we pay the consequences is that by focusing on our kids, my book, my business, my clan, we ignore what else is there. And so an old name for Rudra is Bhutavan. I love this name, Bhutavan. I love it because it means the recycled one, the one who is left over, meaning the one who is ignored, right? I'm going to feed my kids, screw everyone else's kids. Well, Ardra represents those that are left behind. And at some point, they will come and get you, if you don't acknowledge them. Bhutavan represents that which has been, the past. So literally the past coming back to bite you in the ass. So Brahma is creation. Bhutavan or Rudra is destruction. But he's only destruction when you haven't acknowledged the consequences of your actions. So Ardra people are very much about righteousness and righting wrongs. And for that reason, the first place they see those wrongs is in their family. So often the Ardra person will have major disputes with the same-sex parent, meaning if you're a female, it's with your mother. If you're a male, it's with your father, and you just rebel against them because they are not good role, or in some way they're stifling you. And so usually the Ardra person just takes off. And that's healthy. That's good. Then they can repair that relationship and you can be fine as long as you're not living with them, right? You're 1,000 miles away if you're the Ardra person. That's one of the qualities of Ardra. So the star that is Bhutavan, that represents his arm, his shoulder, is at 5 degrees of Gemini. And that technically falls in the last quarter of Mrigashiras. And that's not by accident. I think this illustrates how linked this part of the sky and how linked these myths are to each other. They're not separate individual things. This is one swath of the sky. It's a scroll, and you're reading these myths there. So at 5 degrees, give or take a degree or two, if you have planets or your ascendant or your 10th cusp there, it will take on the qualities of Ardra, this powerful sense of, now on the flip side, Ardra people can feel worthless. They can feel like a nobody because they don't fit in this world. Orion the hunter, it lives in the forest because he ran away from this world that's bullshit. That's just full of so much suffering and fakery, and the Brahmas of the world so proud of themselves and look at what I've created. I make $1 million and I'm a super artist and I'm so cute and whatever. And Ardra just sees right through that. Again, nothing wrong with Rohini and Mriga and having some pride in your accomplishment. Their challenge is to understand that, hey, other people don't have the same talent. Other people have different talents. Let me think about honoring other people as well. So when Ardra sees that you are proud of your accomplishment, but you're also honoring others, you're giving back to others, he leaves you alone. Ardra won't harm you. In like even countries, if the USA is doing a lot of good in the world, and yeah, they're doing some funny business, but also they're doing a lot of good, the Ardra person sees that and goes, okay, well, nobody's perfect. But if all they see is you messing, whatever country you are, I'm not picking on the USA or anyone in particular, but when they see Russia, for example, is messing with your elections, they've been messing with elections since the 50s, 60s, 70s. I grew up in a communist country. So I know from a long time ago, from the 70s, they were messing with elections in Bulgaria, in Poland, Yugoslavia, Czechoslovakia, and through propaganda, through spies, through murder, this is just fact. It's all out in the open. So the fact that they're doing it now in the US, people go, oh my God, where did this come from? No, they've been doing it for 50, 60 years. So what is the point of that? The point of that is when you see a country or a regime, or go farther back, the British Empire, what the British Empire did, what all colonial empires did, the French colonials in Indochina. President Roosevelt said the French have been, he said this about the French and the British, have been in Indochina meant what is now Vietnam for 100 years. And the people there are worse off than they were 100 years ago. This is President Roosevelt said this, meaning that the French, are supposed to be a first world civilized culture with brilliant ideas and so forth. And what did they do? They just raped the land, took for themselves. The British, the same thing with, I'm talking about Ardra because there's injustice. I'm railing against injustice. President Roosevelt said of the British when he went to visit Gambia, he said for every dollar they put into this land, they take out 10. And Gambia is 5,000 years behind. The people live like it's 5,000 years ago. He was appalled. And he felt that all these empires needed to go, right? Unfortunately, he died, too early. So the point of me saying this is not to pick on any one country, empire, or person. It's to show you that there are consequences for what you do. And a country or a person who does not acknowledge these consequences. Mrigashira, remember, is the quest for immortality. It wants Soma. Soma is the fountain of youth, gold in them their hills, oil under the ground, diamonds under the ground. Whatever your Soma is, remember that as you go, and you will get it. Mrigashira people get what they search for after lots of searching, lots of effort. But what karma do you create in the process? Be careful if you're a Mriga person, because Ardra will take your head off. Meaning Bhutavan, the fruits of your actions, the past, your past will catch up to you. So in the process of searching for your Soma, make sure you make friends, not enemies. Or make sure you make more friends than enemies. So I'm not picking on anyone in particular. This is a lesson from the stars to help us understand the concept of reaping what you sow. And it's written in the stars from Aldebaran to Capella and Meisa, which are the marker stars of Mrigashiras, which we talked about in the last video, to Ardra and its marker star, Betelgeuse, Betelgeuse, however you want to say it. And so that's why this is the star of the teardrop, because many, many tears and much suffering and blood will be shed if your actions have been unrighteous in the past. God, that sounds so... I sound like a Baptist preacher. And there will be blood, ladies and gentlemen. That's not what I want to sound like. So I was about to say, are there any questions? But it's just me on this video. Typically, I teach this in class, and we have a discussion, and we have a feedback. Let's see what else I wanted to say about this before I call it a day, because in the last video, I thought of 5 things to say after I press stop record. Yeah, so if you feel like you're worthless, like you don't fit in this world of fakers, if you feel like you just want to end it all, understand that this is part of your makeup, that you are a Rudra, you are a Bhutavan. And typically, Ardra people are very deep, serious children. They will eventually eclipse their parents, in the sense that because they think about consequences, they think about things, they in some way will far eclipse what their parents and their family have done, either in a good way or in a bad way. Depends the path they take. Do they become the Joker or Osama bin Laden? Or do you become, someone who transcends that and takes all that pain? Think about Taylor Swift. Like her or not, she's brilliant. She has an amazing horoscope. She talks about the pain of being a high school kid, right? How it hurts, how much relationships hurt, but transforming that pain into something positive and useful. And does she want to cut the head off of ex-boyfriends and whatnot? Probably, yeah. But, taking that energy and emotion and putting it into something powerful. So that sadness, that anger, that rage, that sense of betrayal and abandonment, this is typical for Ardra. And the point of this video is to tell you that you may even feel it even if you're not technically in Ardra. Even if you have a planet at 5 degrees Gemini, which is technically Mriga, you're going to feel this. 5.5 degrees, 6 degrees. Okay, so understand that these divisions, again, just to repeat myself, are artificial. They work for a specific purpose, which is to make the Vimshotri Dasha system, which is based on these 13 degrees, 20-minute divisions. It can't exist if we don't have this division. It's useful for a bunch of other things. If you do KP, you absolutely need it, right? But in terms of the myths and understanding the Shakti of each nakshatra, these divisions are useless. The division of 0 to 13 degrees, 20 minutes makes no sense. Use the actual yoga taras, okay? So look up at the sky, the time you were born, the moment you were born, the moment your client was born. I use the app called Stellarium. It's a free app on, you could do it live on the internet, or you can download it to your computer and use it on your computer offline. So you could do both. It's brilliant. It's a brilliant app. All of these 2 slides that I've been showing you are from Stellarium. And yeah, you can do screenshots and all that kind of cool stuff. So I hope this was useful to you. I'm sure there's more to say. I do have more about Ardra Nakshatra in another video. You can look that up. If you'd like to get the Nakshatra Secrets course, it's $147. It covers all 27 nakshatras in detail, and it has a lot of bonuses. How to use Tara Balam, how to use Sarvartha Siddhi. If you don't know what these things are, we cover this extensively in the class. How to plan events based on the nakshatra, based on the day of the week and the combination with the moon nakshatra. This is called Sarvartha Siddhi. And there are different, different permutations of that. So if you want to learn all that stuff, go to nakshatrasecrets.com. The course is there. Click get it. If you hate it, I'll give you your money back. No worries. If you love it, I will not give you your money back. If you love it, you keep it and use it and help enrich your life and other people's lives. Okay, that's it out of me. We'll see you in the next one. Namaste, everyone. Bye-bye.